Today I'm going to work on our little transmission cooler. GM has a factory bulletin out for this thing that basically it's a thermostat for your transmission, and it only trips at about 195 degrees. It's a little too hot for my tastes. I live down here in Louisiana, down in the south, where it rarely gets into the 30s, maybe one or 2 weeks out of the year. So what I'm going to do is put in this bypass plug that essentially just leaves this open to the transmission cooler all the time. What's in there now, again, it acts like a thermostat. It stays closed, circulating the transmission fluid only in the transmission until it gets to 190 plus, at which point it'll open to your cooler. But it doesn't bring it down that far before it closes back. I'm going to install this where it just constantly circulates through the cooler, and supposedly you can get 40 to 50 degrees improvement. So we'll just go ahead and get started. The only thing I needed for this was a 10 millimeter, a 13 millimeter to get the little bypass valve off of the transmission. I didn't want to bring my phone under the truck, but basically, if this is your transmission, it plugs into the transmission. You've got a 13 millimeter bolt that just goes through this hole and secures it. Wait, I'm drawing this wrong. Yeah, that's right. And then your inline and outline to the transmission cooler just plug right into this with a plate that then screws in with a single 10 millimeter bolt. There's not much to getting this thing off. Watch those O-rings. This one stayed on the line. This one stayed in the bypass valve. Doesn't really matter. It's going to go right back on as soon as I'm done, but do not lose those. You're going to need both of them, obviously. So to start, I haven't done this, so we're doing it with me, one take. Hopefully I won't make a fool out of myself. Use your snap ring pliers to remove the snap ring. Sorry, it's hot out here and I'm sweating all over the place. Let me find my pliers. I guess you will need a pair of regular, ordinary pliers to pull the factory. It's supposed to just pop right out, but my truck is a 2017. There we go. See, as you can see, it's like an ordinary thermostat. That's all the pieces in the order that they were in the device. Now, they do sell kits that look just like this that will, instead of popping at 190, you'll pop at 160 or something like that, and will work like a traditional thermostat, just have a lower cooling point. I would recommend those if you live up north, anywhere with an extended cold climate. Like I said, down here, it really doesn't matter. Even if it is in the 30s, by the time you start your vehicle, just the friction alone heat is going to bring you up to temperature regardless of the ambient temperature. So I'm going to go with something that just keeps it open all the time, a little bit simpler, which, don't lose these O-rings. All of this rolled into one. Once it's in, I don't know if you can see in there, it plugs all the way back up to that back hole and essentially forces the fluid to circulate through the transmission radiator constantly, which to me is preferable. Now, there is a method, and don't quote me on this, they call it flipping the pill, where if I understand it correctly, you put these pieces back into the housing, only you turn this around. It still operates as normal, but with the plug up here, or the pill up here, it allows the fluid to bypass through, essentially doing the same thing as this. My only thought was that's a lot of pieces of moving parts. You're taking one out of its orientation. Something could go wrong, get into your transmission. I don't know. This is a solid piece of billet aluminum. It's not going anywhere. So we're just going to discard this. I'm going to put our O-rings on. My hands already have some transmission fluid on them, so bear with me while I just get them on here, and then we'll lube them up with a little bar oil. This is just basically generic Lucas. It's, I think, from O'Reilly's, their brand of Lucas gear oil. Works well for O-rings. I didn't get the underside, but like I said, my fingers already had transmission fluid on it, so that's nice and lubed up. Say you're supposed to clean this out. We are still nice and bright and shiny in there with just tranny fluid. I don't really have any debris. There's a little bit right there. I guess I can I would recommend a sterile lint-free rag. Of course, that's what I'm using. It just happens to look like an old t-shirt. Get any of that little gunk from around the edge out. Hopefully you can see that and we're nice and clean. Drop this in. You can feel those O-rings kind of work their way down. Like I said, my hands are slippery right now, so I don't want to. I don't know if I should have had to force that, but I did. Just got to get it down low enough where the snap ring will pop in. Ta-da! So now we have closed the loop, and it will essentially, or I guess forced it open is a better way of saying that. Put our snap ring back in. And it is important that this snap ring is seated below the lip all the way around. As you can see, well, actually, I don't know if you can see that. You might have heard that click, but it is all the way in. So now we're good to go. Get up under the truck, plug the lines back in, secure the plate, and then secure this to the transmission, and we will be good to go. But this is what you're taking out, and you saw what you're putting in, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I apologize for the roughness and, well, the roughness of this video. Like I said, I wanted to try to do it in one take, and hopefully I got it. Thank you for watching. Good luck. All right, so I'm not 100% sure that I have this back in frame, but I thought we'd go ahead and do our install. Threw my phone down under the truck, and I'm going to put this little thingamabob back on. Now, as I mentioned earlier about the O-ring, see how this one stayed on the line? This one does not have one, and we're going back on in the same orientation where no O-ring, O-ring. So we're good there. Now, mine's a 2017. I think the 2014 to 2016 had some retaining clips on these lines, which are a little bit more difficult to get out. But these you just kind of plug them in, put your cap that goes over the collars, and then you'll screw it back down with your number 10. Again, sorry for the breathing and weird voice. I'm doing the best I can. We'll hand tighten this back on. There we go. And it just then plugs right back into your transmission. The O-rings are on the transmission itself. There's my number 13. Here's the big number 13 I told you about. I'm going to go ahead and torque this down first to secure the housing before I try to tighten up the clamp. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you torque this to 130 pounds. No, I'm joking. Just hand tighten it. It's just holding it in place. Kids in the background. That's good enough. We'll move over to number 10. Righty tighty, lefty loosey, right under the catalytic converter. There's a lot to be said for those little ratcheting wrenches. Still old school, but I have one of those little things. Again, I wouldn't over tighten this. It's just holding the lines in place. Well, at this point, I think I'm loosening every time I try to take the wrench off. There we go. That's plenty tight. Wipe off any excess. She is good to go. Again, that plug forces the fluid comes in, makes it go through your cooler to come back, and it's always circulating. I have no doubt this transmission is going to come up to temperature without any problems, and now it should maintain somewhere around 160. I'll do some driving, and whenever I type up the review, I'll kind of put my average temperature. But for now, after about 15 minutes of driving, I get up to 190 plus before it pops. I'm hoping not to get anywhere near that. So anyway, like I said, it's real easy to do. Just get you number 10, number 13 wrench, snap ring pliers, and maybe a little pair of pliers. And that's all you. Good luck, guys. Okay, so we've been driving around now for 15-20 minutes. The car's up to speed. The temperature's up to speed and everything. And been on and off the highway, kind of getting back on the highway. Put the motor in a bind here and see if the temperature comes up any. This seems to be the sweet spot. The highest I've seen it get was about 161, and that's it. That's as high as it's going to get. 160 degrees. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. About 93 degrees outside. So from what I've seen, that's about a 35 degree drop in temperature below what I normally get. Now, of course, it's not towing anything. But that seems to be the operating temperature now, rather than 190, 195. I'm happy with that.